Okay, so far I've showed you how I straighten them. You know, it's pretty simple. Just put some weight on them. And with these two, I've now dressed the rails on both of them, on both sides, and they turned out to be a little better than what I thought originally. Because originally I was putting this thing down and that putting that down in there, and I was trying to get a measurement, and I was kind of judging because I had to look at the groove. This one turned out on the most worn spot, which is down around here. It still has, I can see here, about 9/32. The drive length is 7/32. So, you know, it basically has a 1/16 of an inch left, which doesn't sound like much, but it does take a while to wear it down. You know, I mean, you can wear it down fast if you're using bar oil that's too thin on a hot day, or if you're run out of bar oil, or you know, there are things that can happen if your chain isn't well maintained and it's, you know, doing funny things. There are things that can wear your bar out faster, but it takes a while to wear it, you know, and filing it down like that. Like, I just file it down a bunch, and I was concerned that I might file it down to where too much, but I just went right to where the marker, you know, all the bad spots were gone. You know, I could tell I didn't really need the marker because I could tell where the groove was sunken down, where the chain had went on. Whoever owned this bar before never dressed the rails. They used this bar until it wasn't even cutting good. They could probably use it until they couldn't use it anymore, and they got their money's worth out of it. It was used a lot, I could tell, but by doing this, it's got a lot more use to it. Not, you know, not nearly as much as, you know, like as a new bar, but most people just use them. Like, whoever owned this they used it a lot. It was probably a professional that used this. I don't know. I just got it off eBay, and I think the guy that got it off owned a pawn shop, judging by the username. It was something pawn something, you know. But this, I think it'll last a little bit longer. I mean, unless it's, you know, not well maintained, you know, the chain or whatever, somebody's using it, you know, kind of abusing their stuff and not maintaining it well. But it's probably just going to go on to a saw that's for sale. But, you know, depending on who buys it, just some guy buys it because they have a good deal on a chainsaw. They might say, "Oh yeah, that's a nice old saw," and buy it and use it a couple times a year. You could use that bar for firewood, all like for personal use for years probably. And it, you know, but milling, it won't last a real long time. This one has a lot of life left to it. I straightened it out. I mean, I paid $35, around $35 for each of these, and this one for $35, that's a good deal. Even though it doesn't look that good, it's this thing has got a lot of life left to it, and you know, whoever gets that, you know, when they buy it, if I manage to sell my chainsaw with this on it, they're getting a good bar, in my opinion. It's a hard nose. Whether people like that, I don't know. I haven't used them much. I've had a couple. I always sell them with the chainsaws, but that one's good. This one, it has life left to it for $35. I don't know how long it would last if I just used it. I have my Forester bar that I've been using for years, and that one gets the most use. I've been using that for not all the time, but I've had it for 5 to 10 years. I don't remember exactly, somewhere in between there. I just got this. These are $40 on eBay. I don't think that one will last real long. I used it one day cutting tapered siding, I believe it was. I was cutting 7-inch wide cuts, and before I was done, I had I had to do a bunch for a small shed. Before I was done, that spot right there was worn down, and I couldn't. My tapered siding was coming out. I forget what was happening, but something wasn't going right. Oh yeah, they weren't tapered anymore. They weren't being tapered, and I was like, what? I was like, that's odd. And I was even using a mill, like the Mark III mill with the two sides, if I remember right. And I was like, that ain't right. And I had to dress it. Luckily I had my dressing tool with me, and I just took it off, and I could see I marked it with marker, and I run over it, and all the marker went except for that 7 inches that I was cutting. And part of that is because I was using thin bar oil that was way too thin for the summer. I was actually using canola oil, and it's like water when it's hot out. It was hot that day. It was probably in the 80s that day, and it's just like water. And not only that, when it gets so thin like that, I don't know if all chainsaws are like this or if it's this model, but the pumps in these, they don't pick up that. They pick up the thick stuff easier than they do the thin stuff when it gets thin like that. And I knew that because every time I'd fill up my gas, I just put hardly any bar oil in. I just wasn't using the bar oil, and I think that's because it's too thin, and so I can't use a canola in the summer. I just learned that. I do a lot of milling in the cold weather normally, and I've been using canola a while, and I didn't notice it. Bars wearing out that fast, and I dress them all the time. But I used it in this hot weather once, and it on this cheap bar, $40 for a 28-inch bar. That's cheap, and it wore out that one day, within several hours. But I think I'm gonna try using a thicker bar oil. My favorite is the Husqvarna brand, and see what that does. See if do this similar type milling, and see if this bar will wear out like that again. This one's gonna actually go on a chainsaw for sale as soon as I get it built. It's all in pieces right now, but that's what I'll probably test it out to see, because I might buy these just so I can throw a bar on a chainsaw. If I don't want to just sell a power head, because I think it's easier to sell with a bar on it. But these two, I'm pretty happy so far. It's not done yet though. I still gotta open these rails for a 58 gauge chain and close these so it'll still be a 58 or 50 gauge down here, because it's a little thick, a little too wide down on this lower part.